pass out of your feces, go into the water, go into the snails. They emerge from the snails, go into fish, we eat the fish raw, and it goes into our body. Or the larvae of them will burrow through your skin and travel through your lungs, and then go down into your liver. And in your liver, they'll form these cholangiocarcinomas. And you can see how it builds up there, the pathology. They're different for each one of them, Pistorchis, derived cancer. Okay, so that's enough of that stuff. I've got a very quick appendix to go through here, and I'm not going to go into your appendix. This is my appendix. You don't need an appendix operation here. So what I've done is given some information on retroviruses. They link to some neoplasms, schizophrenia. This is the modus operandi of human endogenous retroviruses. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Aberrant expression can lead to oncogenic properties with translocations, applications, and point mutations. There's something coming, and it's a crisis, a huge crisis in the medical world. This chart here shows it very nicely. There are 3 antibiotics here: ciprofloxacin, ampicillin, and kanamycin. These are for bacterial infections and severe infection and TB. They were given to mice, and the mitochondria, which is the little organelle in your body that produces all your energy, ATP, started cranking out a huge amount of reactive oxygen. Lipid peroxidation increased enormously, which can lead to cell rupture, and glutathione, which you need for at least 2,000 genes operation in your brain, were diminished enormously. These are ordinary bacteria, antibiotics that were given, that you use for bacteria. They're extremely harmful to our mitochondria. Well, your heart muscle is loaded with mitochondria. So you take antibiotic, you're damaging your heart muscle. We've never known this. We've never been told this. Well, now we have antibiotic or microbial resistance. We're going to need stronger and stronger antibiotics, but they're going to damage our mitochondria. Our mitochondria control everything from aging to cancer to integrity of the p53 gene. So I'm predicting an approaching catch-22 mitochondria antibiotic crisis that we really have no way out of. How are we going to make antibiotics that fight the resistance that do not damage the mitochondria? Because it's also a bacteria. It's a primitive bacteria. Remember the alpha proteobacters. Whoa, do you see the crisis? It's a huge problem for future scientists, figuring out how we're going to tackle the antibiotic resistance without destroying our mitochondria. And they just issued, the World Health Organization just issued a call for papers, and I wrote them a reply. I said, do not produce any antibiotics that attack the mitochondria, and you can test this with reactive oxygen, lipid peroxidase, glutathione, and periodic checks of p53 integrity. So I told them, and also the mitochondria produce oxidative phosphorylation, which is hugely important for our cell cycle. And I said, you must check for that as well. So I've told the World Health Organization that they've got to do this to prevent this crisis, basically. Anyway, this was the big news story that I'm producing here for you. And the top health officials in the world should be looking at this right now. And this is so important. You appreciate it, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge problem. But how are we going to do it without damaging our mitochondria? and that's the whole, that's a dilemma that we really have to deal with. And it's going to be interesting to see how the scientists deal with that one. Okay. Asbestos, still being produced. This is the DNA of the mitochondria. You can see how sensitive it is to many alterations, and it's so important in terms of P53 genes and oxidative phosphorylation. These are the cancer-causing chemicals. I've listed them for you. Pesticide-induced cancers. This is fine particulate lung cancer. DNA methylation. Prevention of cancers. Prevention of infection-associated cancers. And this shows you sort of the flow of the prevention. Cancer is a preventable disease in many cases that requires major lifestyle changes. And that's the message you want to take out of here. And there's also a regulatory failure. During Mulroney's reign, we got hepatitis C virus infected blood products in Canada from January 1st, 86 to July 1st, 1990. That was the time, roughly, he was in there some of that time. And these other ministers were there as well, Perry Beatty. They're all nice gentlemen and all that, Jacob, but they were not doing their job. They were not on top of their department and saying, hold on a minute, you got to check this for viruses. There's the oral polio vaccine contaminated with SV40 monkey viruses. Louis Saint Laurent and John Diefenbaker were in power at that time. That's when we got infected with the salt vaccine. I found this, 1,4-dioxane Envision herbicide at 350 parts per million. That was my huge single discovery that I've made in my life. I sent a sample of pesticide in for analysis, and they came back with 350 parts per million. It's a suspected human carcinogen. It was listed in N. Sachs. I sent that message off to the federal government. They said, we'll try and ask them to reduce the amount. It went, and the pesticide went on to become the best-selling pesticide in the world. There's the pesticide registry. What's missing in here? Well, the inerts are not associated with the pesticide. The formulation is not given. The contaminants are not listed. Epigenetic profile is missing completely. Synonyms are not there, and the market name and the CAS number are missing. Well, I was a director of the International Asian Board Society when Joe Cole was the president. He's dead now, he died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But we got this list from the U.S. government House Senate Oversight Committee on what was present in 2,4-D that wasn't listed. And it was huge. There was dioxins, trichlorodioxins, the tetrachlorodioxins. There were octochlorobispherones, anthraquinones, which codling moth ovicide, monoditritetetradioxins, and nitrosodimethylamines, ethylamines, orthoparamonochlorophenolisomers, chlorophenol-phenol-isomers, N-nitrosodiethanolamine, 3-chlorophenoxymethanes. Okay, none of these are listed as contaminants in the Canadian product.
The library will close in 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm almost finished here. Almost finished. Bear with me. Okay. We now have 2,4-D tolerant corn and soy genetically modified soy products, which are using 2,4-D. So it's a GMO, 2,4-D GMO product. Okay, we're using that in Canada. And that 2,4-D I showed you is hugely missing all of the toxic stuff that I mentioned. Okay, so another example, aloe vera. It's a herbal remedy for various things. Olive extract is an intestinal irritant and a carcinogen of the large intestine in these rats. It's sold as a hand washing soap right here in Cologne. I bought it. Okay, so I'm just curious, does the federal government know it? Do they approve it? Okay, so there's the deadly paradox of our fix with the mitochondria. There's the reference on that. It's Samir Kalgati, bactericidal antibiotics induce mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative damage of mammalian cells. That's the reference you really got to know. And it's in on the disc that I'm going to give you, I think. So there's the HIV to AIDS transformation. American weapons labs, they weaponize these viruses. The CIA did this in Lytton and Biomedics labs. They took all these viruses and they subjected them to, they inject them into a mouse or a rodent. They'd harvest the worst tumors and they'd break them up and they'd x-ray them and stick them in other mice or rodents, and they keep doing this about 100 times until these things were so lethal that they could kill a person or any animal very quickly. So when you got one arm of the government doing this kind of crap secretly, and you got another arm trying to save lives by making these things, rendering them inert, wow, you got a problem, because viruses escape. They are so small, they'll go through a porcelain filter. You know, some filters, anyway, 1 in 10,000, for smaller viruses. So there's some references. This is what the International Agency for Research of Cancer has summarized their tables. This is their list, and I urge you to always consult the International Agency for Research of Cancer. They do fabulous work. I was there at their laboratory in Lyon, France, and this outfit needs fantastic funding and support from the whole world because of